The rain came down in sheets, blurring the neon sign outside St. Mary's Hospital in Phoenix, Arizona. Elia Carter, a dedicated nurse with over a decade of experience, sat at her station, sipping lukewarm coffee. Her eyes were heavy with fatigue, but she pushed through. It was just another busy night. Or so she thought. The soft chime of the automatic doors opening snapped her attention back to the lobby. Expecting to see a late-night visitor or an ambulance crew, she glanced over. Instead, her mug slipped from her hands and shattered on the floor. Standing in the doorway was a lion. A massive, golden-maned lion, its fur soaked from the rain, stood motionless as the storm raged behind it. Time seemed to stop. The bustling hospital fell silent as everyone froze, unable to process what they were seeing. The lion's presence wasn't aggressive. It wasn't roaring or charging, it simply stood there, gazing around the room. But what truly caught Elia's attention wasn't just the sheer impossibility of the scene. In its powerful jaws, the lion carried a small, wrapped bundle. Carefully, it stepped forward, its claws clicking softly against the tiled floor. Its amber eyes locked with Elia's, and she felt an unexplainable pull, a connection that transcended fear. Whispers of disbelief swept through the staff as the lion moved closer. Security guards hesitated, unsure whether to intervene. Doctors looked on in stunned silence. Elia took a step forward, her heart pounding. She couldn't explain why, but something inside her told her to trust the creature. As the lion reached the center of the lobby, it gently lowered the bundle to the floor. With a soft nudge of its nose, it pushed the bundle toward Elia, then sat back on its haunches. For a moment, the only sound was the rain pounding against the hospital's windows. Elia knelt, her hands trembling as she reached for the bundle. She slowly peeled back the soaked cloth, revealing what was inside. Her breath caught in her throat. It was a baby. A tiny infant, no older than a few days. Its skin was pale, and its small chest rose and fell weakly. The baby's lips were a shade of blue, and it let out a faint, pitiful cry. Tears filled Elia's eyes. She quickly assessed the infant's condition, her training kicking in. This baby needed immediate medical attention. She shouted for a pediatric team, her voice firm and commanding, cutting through the stunned silence of the room. The lion didn't move. It sat silently, its intelligent eyes watching Elia's every move. It seemed to understand the urgency of the situation, as if its job was done now that the baby was in safe hands. As Elia handed the baby off to a team of nurses and doctors rushing in with an incubator, she looked back at the lion. Something about this entire situation didn't add up. Where had it come from? Why had it brought the baby here? And how could it show such precise care and understanding? A voice snapped her out of her thoughts. What's going on here? It was Dr. Marcus Green, the hospital's chief physician, who had just arrived. He glanced from Elia to the lion, his expression one of sheer disbelief. Elia explained the situation quickly, her voice trembling with emotion. The lion brought the baby. It just walked in and laid the child down. It knew something was wrong. Dr. Green's face softened as he glanced at the bundle, now being whisked away to the neonatal unit. And the lion? He asked. I don't know, Elia whispered, turning back to the creature. The lion hadn't moved. It sat there, water dripping from its fur, completely calm. It was as if it was waiting for something, or someone. Security guards were moving closer now, their radios buzzing with frantic chatter. One of them raised a tranquilizer gun, his hands shaking. Elia raised her voice, firm and unyielding. No one touches that lion. It saved a life tonight. We owe it the same care. Dr. Green hesitated but nodded, trusting her instincts. Let's figure this out, he said quietly. But before anyone could act, the lion stood, turned, and began to walk back toward the door. It paused for a moment, glancing over its shoulder as if to say goodbye. Then, just as silently as it had come, it vanished into the rain. Elia stood there, her heart racing. She had more questions than answers. And the mystery only deepened when one of the nurses hurried over, clutching a small object in her hand. "I found this in the baby's blanket," the nurse said, breathless. She handed the item to Elia. It was a gold locket, slightly tarnished but unmistakably engraved. Elia opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a photograph, faded but clear. It showed a woman holding a newborn baby, smiling softly. The back of the locket bore an inscription. "For Anna, protect him, no matter the cost." Elia stared at the locket, her mind racing. Who was Anna? Was she the baby's mother? What had happened to her? And how was the lion connected to all of this? The storm outside continued to rage, but Elia felt something shift inside her. She didn't know it yet, but this night was the beginning of something much bigger than anyone could have imagined. The neonatal unit was a flurry of motion as doctors and nurses worked to stabilize the baby. Elia stood just outside, watching through the glass with a mix of hope and worry. The baby's tiny chest now rose and fell steadily, aided by the hum of the incubator. Dr. Green emerged from the room, his face a mixture of relief and confusion. "The baby is stable for now," he said. "Dehydrated, hypothermic, but otherwise no signs of physical trauma. It's a miracle, Elia. Whoever, or whatever, brought him here saved his life." Elia nodded, clutching the locket in her hand. "But who is he, Marcus? And what happened to him before he got here? That lion, it didn't just stumble in. It knew. It understood." Before Dr. Green could respond, a soft chime echoed over the intercom. "Security to the main entrance. We have a situation." Elia's heart sank. She turned to Dr. Green, her instincts kicking in. "Stay with the baby. I'll handle this." The main lobby was no longer the calm, surreal scene it had been earlier. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, but the hospital entrance was now swarmed with people, police officers, reporters, and a few civilians who had clearly heard the rumors. Elia pushed through the crowd, spotting Carl, the head of security, speaking with two officers. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice steady despite the chaos. Carl gestured toward a man standing just outside the hospital doors. He was tall, with unkempt hair and a weathered face, his clothes soaked from the rain. His eyes were frantic, darting around as if searching for someone. Clutched in his hand was a photograph. "He showed up a few minutes ago," Carl explained. "Said he's looking for his son. Claims he knows about the lion." Elia's pulse quickened. "His son?" She stepped forward, her eyes locking onto the man. "Sir, I'm Nurse Carter. You said you're looking for your son." The man's hands trembled as he held out the photograph. It was the same woman and baby from the locket, but this time, the man was in the photo too. His arm was wrapped protectively around the woman, his face full of pride. "My name is David," he said, his voice cracking. "My wife, Anna, she passed away 3 days ago. Our car went off the road during the storm. I tried to get help, but when I came back, the baby was gone. I thought I'd lost him too." Elia's breath caught in her throat. "Your wife's name was Anna?" David nodded, his eyes filling with tears. "She gave me this," he said, pulling out a matching gold locket. "It was hers. She said it was meant to protect him, no matter what." Elia's grip tightened around the locket in her own hand. "David, your baby is here. He's safe. But, there's something else." She hesitated, unsure how to explain the unexplainable. "A lion brought him to us." David's expression flickered between disbelief and shock. "A lion?" She nodded. "It walked into the hospital carrying your son in a blanket. It didn't hurt anyone. It just left him here." Do you know anything about that? David's face paled. The lion, it was Anna's wish. Elia blinked. What do you mean? David took a shaky breath. Anna grew up near a wildlife sanctuary. There was a lion there she cared for as a girl, named Solomon. She always said he was special, almost like he could understand her. Before she passed, she told me that if anything happened to us, Solomon would know. He shook his head, as if struggling to process his own words. I thought she was delirious. But now. His voice trailed off as tears streamed down his face. Elia placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. David, your son is alive because of her wish. The lion somehow brought him here. We still don't understand how, but he's alive. And he needs you. Back in the neonatal unit, David stood by the incubator, tears streaming down his face as he gazed at his son. Elia stood nearby, giving him space but watching the emotional reunion with a full heart. The baby stirred, his tiny hand reaching out as if sensing his father's presence. He looks just like her, David whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Thank you for saving him. Elia smiled gently. It wasn't just us. Solomon knew. David nodded, his gaze still fixed on his son. I don't know how to repay you. There's nothing to repay, Elia said softly. Your wife's love and that lion's instinct, they brought him here. That's all that matters. But even as the moment brought relief and joy, Elia's mind lingered on the mysteries of the night. Where had the lion gone? How could it have acted with such intelligence? And why did it feel like this wasn't the end of the story? The next morning, as the first rays of sunlight broke through the clouds, Elia found herself drawn to the hospital entrance. She stepped outside, the air fresh and calm after the storm. Her eyes scanned the street, hoping for a glimpse of the lion. And then she saw it. Just beyond the edge of the hospital parking lot, standing in the shadows, Solomon. The lion's amber eyes met hers one last time. He stood tall and majestic, his mane shimmering in the golden light. Elia felt an overwhelming sense of peace, as if the lion was saying goodbye. With a low rumble, Solomon turned and walked away, disappearing into the trees. Elia stood there for a long time, the morning air cool against her skin. She clutched the locket in her hand, her heart full of gratitude and wonder. The world was still full of questions, but one thing was certain, sometimes, love and loyalty transcend understanding. And on that stormy night, a lion had proven it. If you liked this story, don't forget to subscribe and press the bell icon for more.